I am Adam Weil, partner at White Rabbit Group. Welcome to the Pixel Perfect Podcast, where we share knowledge, experiences, and motivations from creatives and entrepreneurs. Today on the Pixel Perfect Podcast, I'm joined by Gabe Nazario, founder and CEO of Offbeat Creative, a video production and social media agency. Benjamin's built his career at really the intersection of storytelling, production, and digital media. He's worked across a bunch of different Fortune 50 companies. So we're talking Google, Samsung, JP Morgan, and more. And through Offbeat Creative, he's leads a distributed team that's designed to move fast, to scale, and deliver high quality creative for social and digital platforms. So in this episode, we're going to talk about what it takes to build creative teams and they can really handle modern content demands and how storytelling adapts across different platforms, how creative leaders balance hands-on craft with the business side, the growth side. So if you work in digital content or creative production and want a real look at how modern creative companies operate, this is a good conversation for you. So Benjamin, welcome on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Adam. I appreciate it. I wish I had that pitch all the time. I sound amazing.
Yeah, I'll just follow you around in your next pitch.
Yeah, maybe you just jump
Give an
on
intro.
every call and you just kinda kick us off with that. That'd be great.
You got it, man. Well, let's start off. Tell me a little bit about the studio, the size of it, where you guys operate, how you operate it. I understand you're distributed. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So Offbeat Creative is exactly what you said, right? We are this creative storytelling content studio, right? And we like to market it as that. And really, behind the curtain, we are fairly small, but it is intentional in that way. And so we're based here in Jersey City. Um,
Okay.
we have a few people who are part of the team. We have some editors, we have some producers. We're all kind of spread out in the Jersey area, but a lot of our work tends to stem in that Northeast region. So the New York, the New Jersey, the Connecticut's of the world, and then depending on the project, we'll ship out specific members of our team into LA and Atlanta and all of those big cities that the film industry loves.
Right, right. And you guys are a bit smaller. I would describe you as kind of small and mighty.
Yeah,
Tell us about kind of the makeup of your team and, what does that look like? Because you're up against, there's some large organizations, large agencies that do the sort of work that you do, but you're also
totally.
working with some really big companies here. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. We are small, right? So I think right now we're at about 4 people total, in terms
Yeah.
of full timers, right? And so
Yep.
obviously, it all kind of started with me kind of doing everything, being that
Yep.
kind of like solopreneur, not really like having a business, but also like wanting to not get into the W-2 world, but I was stuck in this world of like I was doing everything, right? And so at that point, it's almost worse than a job,
Sure.
because you're just so busy all the time and you can never sit down. So I was able to figure out a way to kind of branch out into this smaller team. So right now, what we have is we have 2 video editors that are just kind of constantly cranking things out, right? Right, whether it's for us in terms of like our content of just kind of social, our website, or it's obviously all of our clients. And so we have the video editing in house, which is great. That also includes some motion graphic work. Depending on the scope, we could kind of reach out into our contractor pool to go into like the animation world. But for now, that's
Hmm.
kind of where we're at, right? We have that like solid video editing core, and then we
Yep.
have our kind of production realm. And so we have I have one other producer, and then that's mainly what I also help with a lot in terms of the day to day, is that like just
Okay.
general producing, logistics, planning, creative brainstorming, all of that. And so it's kind of split up in those 2 sides right now. But yeah,
Got it.
very much nimble, and everybody does everything in a way.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So how do you where are you at right now as far as your goals and your growth? Are you looking to blow up into a large organization? Obviously, a lot of it's stemmed from your creative vision. So how are you thinking about scaling that into the future?
Yeah, it's a good question, right? And I think there is this concept of It's dependent on every person, but for some people, it's you get to this number, you get to this level, and it's satisfactory, right? And it's good. And at that point, you're just trying to replicate. And
Mhm.
what I've noticed in terms of how I operate is I'm it's a motivational thing for me, right? It's this concept
Mm.
of almost competition with myself, and so it gets to this
Right.
place of, hey, there's this large number, or there's this large goal that we decide in the beginning of the year, and if we get there, it becomes this just kind of like amazing, like
Mm.
like, oh wow, like what a great feeling, like that we got there.
Mhm.
And what happens for me is if the next goal is the same, it doesn't do it, right? Like it doesn't do it
Sure.
inside here. And so every year it's always been doubling or tripling or just some type of chaotic goal, right? That we've all heard as
Mm.
entrepreneurs is like the best way to get something done is to don't create a realistic goal, create
Mm.
something that feels unrealistic. And
Yeah.
then you're gonna notice that you just naturally do things to get to that unrealistic goal, and shortly but eventually you'll get to a
Yeah.
place where that goal is real. And
Yeah.
that's kind of how I've operated. And so in terms of growing the team and just kind of scaling, we have goals this year
Yeah.
of doubling what we did last year. And it sounds crazy to me coming in February, but it's
Yeah.
possible. It's totally
Yeah.
possible.
How do you think about hiring? Like when you bring in a motion designer, editor, like what's the most important thing? Is it taste? Is
Yeah.
it technical ability? Is it reliability? What does that look like?
Yeah. It's a combo, right? I think like everybody would probably give some form of answer like that, but I think in terms of what we look for, when it comes to just general hiring, there has to be this kind of culture fit first and foremost, knowing that we are so small. So like, we're a team of four. You add another person, well, I don't know, I'm bad at math, but that's about
Yeah, yeah,
25% or 20%, whatever it is. It's like that's a lot
yeah.
of the company that you just jumped in. So that person
Right.
has to be a culture fit, right? We have to get
Mm.
along, especially being like a small company. You're talking all the time, right?
Right.
We're on Zooms all the time. We have text threads, we have Slack threads. We're talking all the time, and there's no one else. So there's only five of us. So like everybody has to get along. That's essentially the one of the biggest kind of pillars when we're looking for
Mhm.
someone. And then obviously shortly after that is this pillar of exceptional skill level, right?
Mm.
Again, being a small company, everybody on your team has to be an ace. Like they have to
Mm.
be the best that you can get. You got to have an all-star team in order
Mm.
to accomplish big goals with a small amount of people. We have to be the
Mhm.
best, and so we unfortunately just can't have somebody come in and ride this wave like it's a W-2 corporate job
Right.
with 10,000 people. It won't work.
Yeah.
So that's what we figured out pretty quick.
Yeah. Sounds like there's some uncompromising non-negotiables there as far as quality,
Yeah.
reliability, mindset, not looking for that W-2 person. Makes
Yes.
sense.
Exactly.
Yeah, makes sense. I want to dive into the actual work itself and help bring me into that world a little bit more because White Rabbit we focus on web development, app development, and so the video world is a little bit different. So what are brands still measuring today that maybe in your opinion doesn't really matter as much?
Yeah. It's a good question. I think it obviously depends on exactly what you're making for them, right? So what they're measuring will differ. It'll be different based off of what you're making. And so, for instance, for us, we have a range of content we make, right? So we have commercials that they're going to measure something very specific, which
Mm.
makes a lot of sense actually, right? For a commercial,
Right.
you're measuring kind of that just kind of traction of how many views are people, especially if you have a QR code or anything of that nature on the commercial. You're tracking very clear metrics of view count, of QR code scans, of purchases, or of signups, whatever it is that come from that piece of content. That makes sense.
Mm. Mhm.
What I think doesn't make sense is when you take all of that, which is like the traditional commercial metric route, and you apply it to the social world. I think the social
Mm.
world is just a different breed of
Mm.
content, and it doesn't always have to be a one for one, right? Like we don't always have to have a social video have 10 million views and that equals success. It that's not how it needs to work for social.
Mm,
There's just different levels of things that you should, I would say, being measure when it comes to that world versus a commercial world.
right,
So
right.
yeah,
Wh-
and
wh-
I've seen those that happen a lot.
right. What is the most important thing when it comes to social and being effective in that space?
I think it's again it's this, like, there's never a one size fits all answer, but a lot of what social is, right? And it depends on where your company is. It depends on the scale of what you're making. We create content for companies like JP Morgan and Wells Fargo, right? Big financial institutions. They don't need anybody else to sign up. Like
Mm,
in retrospect, right? I mean, of course
nice.
they do, but they're not making a piece of social media content so that someone can scan a QR code and book a banker appointment, right? Like
Mhm,
what they're doing there is they are creating that content for someone to remember Wells Fargo or
mm,
remember JP Morgan in their day-to-day life. And so it almost becomes an ad, right? It becomes
mm,
this like just billboard of like, oh, visibility. Oh,
mhm,
okay, got it. I see that. Oh, I forgot about them. Oh, they
mm,
do investments. I didn't even know that. And so it could eventually equate into someone walking into a branch and saying, I saw this video. I didn't know you do
mhm,
investments. I
mhm,
would like to talk about that. And that's great. I just don't think that in terms of a metric of
mhm,
success that should be part of it, right? It's this
right.
concept of, hey, we're making this so that people remember who we are in this loud world, and
Mm,
you just
yeah,
need to make
more of a
sure that you
brand
break.
play.
Yep, yeah, you just got to make sure you're breaking through the noise. And part of that does come with view count, but then view count is also it's contradicting because you could just put $1,000 on paid ad spend and then you get the view count, right? There's a lot more to
Mm,
it, whether it's like actual kind of the deeper metrics that go into social media that are less about the views and more about what people did after watching that video.
right, right. And what are or maybe are there tenets that you think about when it comes to making something memorable? I mean, that's such a difficult thing, right? There's so much noise out there. How do
Yeah.
you make content that really does cut through the noise and it sticks in people's minds?
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's some key things, right? And I think it probably relates similarly to both social and to commercial world in a way because they've both become so fast paced, right? We've always known that, but in terms of what we're making, we need to make sure that we're capturing someone's attention immediately. And so tried and true rule, right, is always those first 2 seconds need to be explosive. They need to be
Mm,
something that people will stop scrolling for or will look up from their phone to watch and continue to watch on a commercial, whether it's CCTV or just a general kind of a television ad. That's a
right.
tried and true tenet, right? Like that's the tried and true pillar of like those first 2 seconds better be good. And
Mm,
they better have whatever it is that you're trying to promote or sell in it. So a lot of these
mhm,
brands obviously have these rules, which make sense of showing whatever that brand is, showing the product in those first 2 seconds so that people can understand exactly what it is. Um,
right.
that's probably the first big pillar. And then I would probably go into that second pillar being some form of emotion, right?
Mm,
Tapping into that emotion and tapping into it fast. So
mhm,
whether it is something that you want people to laugh at, whether it's something that you want people to feel, like a pull of a heartstring for,
mm,
you want to make sure you
mhm,
get there and you get there quickly and you
mm,
don't just surface level it because I think that's where it becomes a piece of content that's washed away is a commercial that's kind of funny but not really funny, right? Or
mm,
a commercial
mhm,
that kind of pulls the heartstrings but like it didn't give you a ton of context and so like it's like yeah that
mhm,
was okay, you'll forget about it, but you'll remember those commercials that like go that level deeper. And so you always have to just
mhm,
make sure you're thinking through like especially in those storyboards of how can we get to the level deeper in the shortest amount of time, whether it's a
right.
visual concept or it's a voiceover concept, whatever it may be, you just need to make sure you're doing that and you're thinking through that in production.
Mm. Is there a way to that you challenge your team or to how do you go? those layers deeper. I feel like so much
Yeah.
content out there is like what you described. It's kind of middle of the road, or it goes halfway there, but it doesn't quite really get to that emotional point.
Mhm.
How do you keep going on that?
Yeah, it's an interesting and challenging kind of thing to do, right? To like always push into that level deeper. I think a lot of it comes with the brainstorm, right? I mean, you start there, and what you need to know sometimes is typically that first answer or that first idea that you get is just the starting point, right? And so it's like, I guess this idea of never falling in love completely with one idea,
Mm,
knowing that there might be another layer to that idea, and just making sure that you at least attempt to peel a layer, and get to this place. And maybe you've gone too far, right? At a certain point of
mm,
brainstorming, you have to bring it back up.
mm,
But I think there's this idea of like, when you whatever you bring to the brainstorm or you bring to the table, know that there's a layer underneath it that you might not realize is there. And so just,
mm,
like, one is tapping into your group, whatever that brainstorm group is, whether it's just your team or it's your team and your client. And then two, even just announcing what I just said essentially in the beginning of the brainstorm so everybody's on the same page, right? Of making sure
mm,
like we are going to take these ideas and go a level deeper
mm,
intentionally, and we'll see where we
mhm.
get. And so that would be probably what I would say in terms of advice for that.
Yeah, yeah. One thing that I think about, and I'm not quite sure what the right balance is
Mhm.
production quality. I've heard Alex Hormozy, I don't know if you heard of him, but he
Yep.
talks about, production quality and sometimes things being overproduced.
Yeah.
And I wonder, what's your opinion on that? Because it does feel like the production can add sort of a level of polish to it and really look professional. But then sometimes it's better to have something that's more raw.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, when does high production value like actually hurt performance?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think a lot of people in like our industry, if they're not in the know, they probably get frightened about that.
Mm,
Um, but I think that people who are in kind of our seats and have these smaller companies who run things like this can utilize that to their advantage, especially the smaller companies, right? Um,
mm,
but yeah, I think in terms of it's a tricky thing to answer in terms of exactly when, but I would say just a general rule would probably be you don't need a cinema level camera for like anything that's going on this. Like,
mm,
realistically, there are times and places where yes, it makes sense to utilize it, but in terms of anything that's going on a social media app, right? That's an Instagram, TikTok, even LinkedIn to an extent. But I mean, I think you don't need this insanely high quality $20,000 camera to do that. There are
mhm,
plenty of cameras out there that can accomplish the goal for this. And yes, you could use your phone, of course, but then there's this medium level that has been created exactly for what you asked, right? The
mhm,
Canons, the Sonys, the Nikons of the world made those cameras that are this small and are
mhm,
used and should be used for that. Right. And it gets you that little bit of a higher quality than a phone, but nowhere near what an Alexa or a Red gives you, and that's exactly why they did that,
mm,
um,
mhm.
for that type of content, right?
Right, right. Well, and it sounds like it also depends on like, as you mentioned, the goals, right? Like, I was watching the Bad Bunny performance over the weekend at the
Yeah,
Super Bowl, and the camera that followed him around, I just felt like was so smooth, and it looked
yeah,
so like, I felt like I was watching a music video, but it was live,
that was
and it
amazing.
just
Yeah,
made it so spectacular. But, on the other end of the spectrum, something I've been seeing is like CNN, for example. They have some great commercials, and I think they do a pretty good job, in my opinion, as far as the news
yeah,
commercials go. But now I'm seeing more newscasters just pull up a video
on their
on their
phones.
phone and just
Yeah,
do a quick short, and
yeah,
it's almost feels more intimate, and
mhm,
like they're in like a sweater versus like their suit and tie. And
Yeah.
so I don't know, I feel like there's a little bit of an appeal these days to have that more raw look and feel, but maybe it just depends on the goals.
Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly. It definitely does depend on the goal. And yeah, it's like, right, the Super Bowl halftime show, like that's the king of the castle. Like you're gonna make sure that thing
Mhm.
looks like a music video, and they did it properly. And then they
Yeah.
knew that was gonna get cut up and you know, repurposed a million different ways. But yeah, then there is also this level of, hey, like a newscaster just giving a quick little update, or you know, a day in the life of so and so. Like those are things that are easily accessible and should be easy to make. And like you could, those
Mm.
are moments where you don't need those cameras. You can utilize a phone or a
Mhm.
small kind of pocket camera and capture something in a quick way. And yeah, and be able to kind of just give people a little glimpse
Mhm.
of what you're doing, or what you have to say. Just kind of tapping into that kind of social world makes sense to not care too much about the quality, I guess.
Right, right.
Yeah.
How much thought goes into when you're creating something now? I feel like you need to almost have the forethought to know, okay, we're actually going to chop this up into like 30 different,
Mm,
pieces of content here. Does
yeah.
that change how you're planning and prepping for a shoot?
Yeah. Yes, definitely. Yeah, I mean, it depends exactly. Again, like you said it great, like the goal and what you're making. I think in terms of commercial world, we produced a few commercials last year that had 30s, 15s, and sixes, right? And that changes everything. And sometimes people don't think that. But if you're
Mhm.
doing it properly, it changes everything, because what happens
Mm.
is, in those particular cut downs, there was the slightest tweak of a script, right? Or there was the slightest tweak of a move that we had to make sure that we captured separately from
Mm.
the 30, because now we have a solid 30. We then have a solid 15 that had a different move or a different
Mhm.
script. And then you have a 6 that has a completely different script. I think, like, yeah, of course, there's
Yeah.
ways that you can chop up your 30 into those kind of cut downs, but it depends on exactly what you're making, because I think in certain scenarios, it just makes a lot of sense to just kind of capture that 6 in its entirety, because then you just have a
Mhm.
true pure 6, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And then there's the level of, you have this corporate video shoot that mostly, you know, a lot of people probably could relate to, and they want this social media cut down, or they want this kind of like social idea. And sometimes we bring a phone and a
Mm.
stabilizer and like a kind of a little system just for that,
Mm.
right? And so yeah, in terms of what it changes, it does change mostly everything, if you're doing it correctly, in my opinion.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about some of the new tools, in when it comes to AI and some of the
Yeah.
video tools. I know like Sora and
Mhm.
and Nano, Banana Nano with
Yep.
the images. How do you think about those tools? Do you feel like those are a threat? Do you think those are give you an advantage? What's your opinion on those?
No, yeah, I mean, I see them as a strong advantage, with what we do. I think that they can be utilized. If they're utilized properly, they can take your company to new heights, um, with without affecting your cap table in a way, right? Drastically. So, like, you're talking. The unfortunate part is, it does in fact tweak who you're hiring, right? So, for instance, if we don't necessarily need a storyboard artist, right?
Yeah.
That's a hot button topic of like,
Yeah.
oh well, you don't need a story. Yes, I would love a storyboard artist, but if I can go on Nano Banana and create a storyboard for whatever that fee is that I'm paying per month, while I'm doing other things with that AI, that's the realm we're going in, right? Like that's where
Mm.
we're going, because it's
Mm.
good enough for what we're
Mhm.
doing, and it's only getting better. That's the other problem. It's not like
Mhm.
just as all AIs are, they're at this level and they're not satisfied, right? Like it's an AI race. We all saw the Super
Mhm.
Bowl. So like it's an AI race. And so every single AI is getting better and better. And so it's only going to be better in time. And I think the problem, or not the problem, but the way that we as kind of smaller production companies can utilize them is these companies will use the financial institutions as examples, right? Like they have creative people, yes, but for big projects, they are still going to tap other companies,
Mm,
and they need those other companies to guide them with those tools. Like they don't necessarily know how to create a full blown storyboard for a 30-second commercial in house.
mhm,
They'll look to you. And even if you used AI, that's almost acceptable at this point, right? Because
mm,
everyone knows that you've used it, but you have to
mhm,
know those prompts. You have to know how to repeat the prompt in a certain way to get that same image again. Like you have to know how to take what you have from all those AIs and throw them in Photoshop and start to
mm,
use the Photoshop AI. And like you customize this thing into something that is essentially perfect for what you're using it for. But it still
mm,
takes that effort, and it still takes
mhm.
that know how of knowing what the storyboard should look like versus
Right.
knowing that this tool can create a storyboard for me. But what is a storyboard, right? Like, what does it look like?
Mhm.
I don't know. And so, like, they still need the person who understands those things to utilize
Right.
the tool properly. So,
Yeah, it seems like those sort of thing that role is almost getting more valuable in
yeah.
today's world. I mean, I saw an article in Business Insider that was talking about this new surge of director of comms roles
Mhm.
that are coming about,
Yeah.
where, if you would have asked people, 2 years ago or whenever ChatGPT came out, "Oh my god, this is gonna ruin the lives of copywriters." But now
Right.
you're seeing the surge of these really high paying salaries. I saw some of them were like $700,000 salary for this director
Dang.
of comms, because now the floor, the baseline of quality is raised, but
Yeah.
you still want to stand out, so you have to go even a step above that, and that requires, human judgment, human taste, and real human creativity. And so it sounds like it's maybe a similar thing with the video.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is. And I think that's where AI will thrive. We'll see where exactly it continues to go, but it is exactly
Yeah.
what you said. It's this like kind of like beautiful marriage of the two, right? It's like we're eventually going to get to a place, we kind of already are there, but we're eventually going to get to this place where AI needs the human mind to like bring it up, but then the human does need the AI to get the job done
Mm,
according,
mhm.
like fast enough, right? For the $700,000 salary that you're getting paid, they're probably
Yeah,
expecting a certain amount of speed, and like
yeah,
AI is going to give that to you. And if you know how to
right.
use it properly, you can do what you would have done 5 years ago,
Yeah,
and something that would have taken you a week could take you a day.
yeah.
And that's probably where we're heading. And so, but it is this marriage of the two that I could see it being really really exciting, for just like the scale of what creatives can do.
Yeah, yeah. I love it, man. I love it. This has been a fascinating conversation. I want to ask you one more question, which is like into the future,
Yep.
as you're thinking about your agency and where you're going with it, you're still at a point where you're small. What's maybe one big bet that you're willing to make on the industry as far as maybe a year out or 3 years out? What's something that you believe is likely to happen?
Mm, that's a tough one. hmm. I would think. I think we could stick with the AI thing because that makes the most sense in terms of like current trajectory of where we're at.
Yeah.
I think what my bet is that companies are going to attempt to do what we do with AI, and it's not going to work. And
In-house.
in-house. Yeah, I think that they're gonna hire people like you said, and they'll call them something else, right? Director of whatever, or just like a AI guru type of dude. And they're gonna ask that person to create a commercial or create a social campaign directly with AI. And they'll do it and it'll be okay. And like and then what's gonna happen is people are gonna turn off because they're gonna say, oh, that was AI driven, or oh, that was made completely with AI. That's not a real human. And
Mhm.
it's gonna perform poorly,
Mm,
and they're just going to kind of come back to this concept of they need a specialist to utilize the tools properly. They're going to try to take the tools and they're going to try to replace it. I just don't think it will fully work for what
mm,
the creative companies do. Um,
Yeah.
I think that's probably in the future, like the short, like 2-year future. I feel like that's going to happen.
Yeah. Oh, well, listen, man, I feel the same way on the web development side of things because everyone's
Mhm.
like, oh, Claude Code and,
Yeah.
Codex and Cursor, you can just, do everything yourself. But, and you see that with some of the tech stocks that are like tanking right now. I think
Yeah.
HubSpot is like down 50%. And so there's this sentiment that like, oh, you don't need developers anymore. And it's actually affected us in sort of a negative way
Sure.
from a perceived value standpoint. But 100%, we are still getting plenty of work, number one.
Yeah.
And number two, all these tools are eventually going to mature and die. They're
Right.
not going to be able to get them to scale. They're going to need companies like us. And I think there's going to be this sentiment that shifts back to, oh, wow, we actually, not only do we need these guys, but they're actually more important than we even thought originally.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
my perspective as well.
I agree. And I mean, I think it's almost a full circle moment, right? It is in that what happens is the people who will continue to thrive after that kind of like phase are the
Hmm.
people who are above are just the best at what they do, right?
Hmm.
You can't just get to this place of decent anymore.
Hmm.
You can't. I think those days are over. And anybody who is in the level of decent is good enough or this is good enough, those people will fall in terms of that cycle and probably not come back because in theory,
Right.
the AIs will be good enough, right? And you just have to
Yep.
make sure that you as a company and you as a creative are striving for better always. Like it can be better.
Yeah.
It can be better. It can be better because then you get to
Right.
this place of AI won't do that, right? AI is not going to make you something that's better and better and better. It's just going to make you something that's good. And you just have
Yeah.
to make sure you're better than it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's true. It's good stuff, man. Well, thanks so much. Tell the audience where they can follow your journey and learn more about you and Offbeat.
Yeah, totally. So you can find us at offbeatcreative.co on our website. And then same exact URL. We're mainly active on Instagram. So offbeatcreative.co
Hmm.
on Instagram as well. Those are probably the best places to take a peek at what we're doing and follow along.
Great. Great. Well, thanks, Benjamin. Appreciate you coming on. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thanks so much. Appreciate the time, Adam.
Thank you for listening to the Pixel Perfect podcast, where we go down the rabbit hole on the journey and motivations of creatives and entrepreneurs. Stay tuned for more stories to come. Until next time.